The world is a brutal, beautiful place. It can chew you up and spit you out, or it can show you wonders sometimes. Honestly, it does both at the same time. We sit in our comfortable homes, thinking we are safe. We think we are in control. But out there in the wild, nature is always in charge. The sea, the mountains, the desert. When things go wrong, and believe me, they will go wrong, you are stripped bare. The ocean can be your best friend, or your worst enemy. For Stephen Callahan, it became a watery cage, an experienced sailor departing alone from the Canary Islands aboard his small sloop, the Napoleon Solo. For 6 days, the journey was perfect. The sun on his face, the rhythm of the waves, the endless blue horizon. He was a master of his small domain, at peace with the sea. But the Atlantic is a fickle beast. On the 7th night, a storm rolled in. Not just any storm, a gale. A monster that tossed his boat like a toy. In the dead of night, a deafening crash. Something massive had struck the hull. Water began pouring in. He grabbed his emergency bag and scrambled to inflate his life raft. The Napoleon Solo was sinking beneath his feet. Seconds, not minutes. He cut the raft free as the boat slipped under the waves. Then silence. Only wind and waves. He was alone. Utterly alone. Adrift in a 6-foot rubber dinghy in the vast Atlantic. The first days were a blur of fear and adaptation. The life raft, which he nicknamed Rubber Ducky, was his entire universe. It was cramped, it was constantly wet, it offered zero protection from the relentless sun. His skin blistered, saltwater sores opened up, thirst was his constant companion. His solar stills were his lifeline, dripping a pitiful amount of fresh water each day. He rationed every single drop. Food was the next great challenge. Emergency supplies dwindled fast. He had a spear gun. He had to learn to be a hunter on the open sea. He missed more than he hit. Every successful catch was a monumental victory. He ate them raw. There was no other choice. Sharks became his neighbors. One night, a shark attack tore a hole in the raft's floor. In the pitch-black darkness, he had to perform emergency surgery on his little vessel. He used a patch kit, his fingers numb with cold and fear, to plug the hole. It was a terrifying, close-run thing. To keep his mind sharp, he established a routine. He navigated using the stars, trying to track his progress. His solar stills were slow and inefficient, but they were the difference between life and death. He called the fresh water they produced nectar of the gods. His hunting skills evolved from clumsy attempts to a deadly art. He wasted nothing. He used the skin for bait and even fashioned hooks from bones. He tracked his progress across the Atlantic by creating his own rudimentary charts. He fought off despair by focusing on the next small task. Catch one more fish, collect one more cup of water, survive one more day. Hope was a fragile thing, a tiny flame he had to protect. After 76 long, agonizing days, he saw it. Land, not a ship, but the island of Marie Galante. He had drifted over 1,800 miles. He was skeletal, covered in sores, and barely able to stand. Fishermen spotted his tattered raft and brought him ashore. He survived not just because he was lucky, but because he refused to be a victim. On October 13, 1972, a plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team, their friends and family, vanished over the Andes Mountains. The pilot misjudged his position and began the descent too early. The plane's wing clipped a mountain peak. The impact tore the aircraft apart. The fuselage hurtled down a frozen glacier and came to a stop in a desolate, snow-covered valley. The silence after the crash was as shocking as the noise. Of the 45 on board, many died instantly. Others were gravely injured. The survivors found themselves stranded at over 11,000 feet. They used broken seats and luggage to block the gaping hole in the fuselage, turning wreckage into a makeshift shelter. They found the plane's transistor radio, and after days they heard the news. The search had been called off. The white plane was invisible in the snow. Authorities presumed them dead. The tiny food supply ran out. Starvation became their enemy, a gnawing force that weakened body and mind. Nights plunged to minus 30 degrees and they had no cold weather gear. The bodies of their friends lay preserved in the snow outside the fuselage. To live, they would have to eat. The decision to resort to cannibalism was agonizing. They debated it, they cried, they prayed. On the 17th day after the crash, an avalanche thundered down the mountain and completely buried the fuselage as they slept. For 3 days, they were trapped in total darkness, unable to dig their way out, with the snow slowly consuming their air supply. This new horror killed 8 more people, yet those who remained fought on, eventually managing to poke a hole through to the surface, gasping for air like men reborn. They knew their only hope was to go for help. They chose their strongest members, Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa, and fashioned insulation from the plane to survive. They climbed for days up a massive peak. When they reached the summit, their hearts sank. As far as the eye could see, there were more mountains. Then Nando saw a small green valley free of snow. It was their only chance. They descended and trekked for 10 days. Finally, they stumbled upon a river and a man on horseback, a Chilean farmer. After 72 days of being presumed dead, the world learned that 16 survivors were still alive. Their survival was a testament to solidarity and gut-wrenching decisions. Their survival was a testament to their incredible solidarity, their decisions, and the unbreakable bond of a team that refused to die. Sometimes the trap snaps shut in an instant. Aron Ralston was an experienced outdoorsman, a thrill-seeker who loved exploring the remote canyons of Utah. He was climbing down a narrow slot canyon when a dislodged boulder, weighing an estimated 800 pounds, shifted under his feet and pinned his right arm. He pulled, he pushed, he tried to chip away at the massive chalkstone with his small multi-tool knife. But the boulder wouldn't budge. He was completely alone, miles from any road, with a small amount of water, 2 burritos, and a video camera. The days bled into one another in a haze of pain, thirst, and dwindling hope. He rationed his water and talked to his camera to keep his sanity. He imagined seeing his future son, a vision that gave him a powerful reason to keep fighting. As days wore on, his arm began decaying. He knew he had a choice to make, stay and die, or do the one thing that might save him. He realized he could use the force of the boulder, snapping first the radius, then the ulna. The sound echoed in the silent canyon. Using pliers and his dull blade, he spent an hour methodically cutting himself free, an hour of white-hot agony. Finally, he was free. He fashioned a crude sling for his stump and began the long journey back to civilization. He rappelled a 65-foot cliff and hiked 8 miles one-handed, driven by the will to see his family again. A family found him, gave him water and Oreos, called for help. A helicopter arrived to airlift him to safety. He had been trapped for 127 hours. Aron Ralston's story is a chilling reminder. Tell someone where you are going. It is also an incredible story of self-reliance and the extreme lengths one will go to in order to live. He chose life and paid a terrible price. What do we learn from these incredible stories? We learn survival is rarely a single heroic act. It's 1,000 small victories. The discipline to ration a sip of water, the ingenuity to make a tool from scrap, the courage to make terrifying decisions. These tales show the power of the human mind. Hope is not passive, it is a strategy and a reason to take the next breath. They show that within ordinary people lies an extraordinary capacity for resilience. It can be bent, battered, but it does not have to be broken. Stay prepared, stay alive. When pushed to the absolute edge, we can find a strength we never knew we had and fight our way back to the light.